Hello, Teague Tigers. Today's math warm-up is called a nested splat, where we're going to be working with numbers through 10. This is another activity that comes to us from Steve Wyberney and his website. For this activity, you're not going to need a paper and a pencil, just your brain, but I am going to ask you to share your thinking. And so you can either do that out loud by yourself, or you can maybe go and get someone else in your house, a little brother or sister, and you can do this activity together and share your thinking. When you do that, when I ask you, how do you know? That would be when you pause the video and you share with each other your thinking. So if you're going to go and get somebody, I suggest you pause the video now and go get them. So in this level, you'll find the number of dots under the large splat, and then you'll find the number of dots under a smaller splat. So let's see what that looks like. How many blue dots do you see? There are 10 blue dots. Splat. Now some of the dots are covered up. How many dots are under the splat? And how do you know? How else could you know? Challenge yourself to explain in a different way how you know how many dots are under that big splat. I know there are 5 dots under the splat because I know that there's 5 out here and 5 plus 5 equals 10. I also know that there's 5 under here because 10 minus 5 equals 5. So those are two different ways that I could explain it. So now let's look under the splat to see how many dots are there. Look, there's another splat. We know that there are 5 dots under the large splat. How many dots are under the small purple splat? And how do you know? How else could you know? Well, I know that there's 3 dots under there because there's 5. I already know that there's 5 underneath the big one, and 5 minus 2 is 3. I also know that it's 3 because there's 5 out here, plus these 2 is 7, and 7 and 3 make 10. You might have come up with something else. So let's look under the small splat to see how many dots are there. 3! So what can we learn from this picture? Let's do a couple more. How many blue dots do you see? There are 8 blue dots. Splat. How many dots are under the splat, and how do you know? How else could you know how many dots are under that splat? Okay, let's look under the splat to see how many dots are there. We see 2 more dots and then our small purple splat. How many dots are under the small splat? And how do you know? How else could you know? All right, let's look underneath this purple splat and see how many are there. There are 5 dots under that purple splat. I knew there were 5 because I saw 3 out here, and 3 plus 5 equals 8. Let's do one more example. How many blue dots do you see here? There are 10 blue dots. Splat. How many dots are under the big splat, and how do you know? How else could you know? Let's look under the splat to see how many dots are there. Now how many dots are under the small purple splat, and how do you know? How else could you know? There were 2 dots under that splat. Again, I saw 5 dots around here, plus the 3 makes 8, and I knew 8 plus 2 gives me the 10. I hope you had fun getting to work with numbers with me today. I hope to see you again on Thursday for another nested splat activity. Have a great day, Tigers!